everyone, welcome to Build. I'm your host, Brittany Jones-Cooper, and today we're talking about the new film, A Million Little Pieces. Inspired by the best-selling book from author James Fry, the film follows James on his journey to sobriety, starting with a soul-bearing and painful trip to rehab. Director Sam Taylor Johnson and star Aaron Taylor Johnson join us to talk about the film, but first, here's the trailer.
James, they're not going to give you anesthesia, painkillers. Not while you're a patient at the treatment center.
Where am I going?
Minneapolis, sir.
Vodka, whatever you have.
Sir, I'm sorry. I'm not allowed to give you any alcohol.
Says who?
The doctor that carried you onto the plane.
Why are you doing this to me?
Because you're my brother. And you're breaking Mom and Dad's hearts.
Truth is, I don't need to be here. I'm not like these other people.
We're all the same in here. We gotta look out for one another.
This is the fucked up table, right?
Doc, I want some company.
I've never seen this degree of degradation in someone so young. If you were to start using again, it's more than likely that you would go into cardiac arrest immediately.
What the hell are you wearing?
These glasses are a down payment on a pretty fucking decent car.
I was talking about the onesie.
As soon as you realize that there is no choice, there's a choice.
I'm not an addict.
Come here. So you do have life left in you. You can win this thing.
Shit.
Why don't you fucking let go of me? I got ribs like a fucking blue jay.
You don't have to do this alone.
You know we could get thrown out for doing this.
A second of freedom is worth more than a lifetime of bondage.
How you doing?
Some days I feel okay, others I just want to crawl off in a dark hole and die.
I'm good. You're doing okay then.
I'm leaving. I know that I'm not better. I tried.
You got two choices. You can let it kill you, or you can let it go and move on. God damn, that'll make a gorilla shit the treehouse.
I'm glad I could be of service.
Put your hands together for Sam Taylor Johnson and Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
Thanks for joining on this very snowy, dark, weird day.
I know.
I think it's beautiful in New York when it snows.
Oh,
It's magical.
It's because you don't live here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just teasing. Guys, I got to check out the film yesterday, and I really enjoyed it. We've seen stories of people's journeys through rehab, and I loved this one because there were these really beautiful moments of stillness, and it felt really heartfelt, and it didn't feel like over-dramatized. It felt really lived in, like I could be on the journey with him. So I just thank you for that. It was like a really nice watch, and I felt his transformation happening. Take me back to the beginning, though, for you guys. Obviously, this is based on James's book. Did you read the book when it came out?
Yeah, I read it when it first came out, and I just remember what a powerful shift in me it kind of created, and an understanding and being inside James's head gave me a sort of sense of that journey and what that journey was, and also what that book meant to a lot of people, and so. And it's also very visual, and the characters are really incredibly strong. And so for a filmmaker, all of that is a dream. And I kept thinking, someone's going to make this movie, and it's going to be so great, lucky them. And then as I kind of tracked it over a decade and seeing who and where, I'd always have that pang of, lucky them. I'm a bit jealous that they're going to get to make this. And then one day it came around to me. And then that moment was just like, I got hold of James, and James said, just go be creative with it. He said, I just want you to make art in the spirit in which I wrote the book. And he just kind of let go in a sense and said, I don't need to be there as part of the writing process. I'm not going to be there on set. Just really have fun with it. And so that was very generous of him and very freeing creatively for us to be able to then go and spend almost 2 years writing it.
Right, because you guys wrote it, produced it, you directed it, and you're the star of it as James. Take me through that process of writing it? Because you have this book as great material, but then the author's kind of giving you that freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great experience. It's probably one of my favorite parts of the process. Those 2 years were sort of in our bubble creatively, collaborating and coming up with sort of visual ideas to sort of play with, and have our sort of stamp of our interpretation. Because James is an incredible. I mean, when you read the book, it's an incredible book. It's very analytical, very sort of the emotional internal thing that he's going through, the pain that he's going through. So we needed to kind of bring that out in sort of in a physicality of a sort of expressionistic kind of style, and so that was extremely fun, and I think what with this sort of added controversy sort of surrounding it, we had it kind of almost gave us a sort of creative artistic licensing to sort of kind of separate slightly from the book, which you would have had to do anyway when you're adapting it, sort of a almost 400-page book into a sort of 110-page screenplay. It's inevitable. But it really made us focus more on that journey. And in that time, we had a lot of time to do extensive research into that world of AA, and I actually went back to the treatment center that James went to, which he hadn't kind of stepped through the doors in about 20 odd years. So it was really overwhelming and quite a bonding experience for the both of us to go through. And but what it did, it kind of tied up a lot of loose ends, really, in a sense of, you know, if there was sort of any contradictions with his journey in the book, it basically left not much there left to be embellished in a way. It was just always what you get is what you see, and I spent time with his brother and his friends that were through that process with him. So you're left with James Fry, who was an addict and is today 26 years sober, and really how we kind of perceive our view on addicts, and how we have to have a lens of compassion and allow for forgiveness to come through, and how what the human experience is like, making those personal mistakes and and kind of coming through shame, and how we can all sort of be there to support and respect that. It's really quite tough, intense sort of. It was a challenge to put this together and be respectful of that, you know?
For sure. And because of the controversy surrounding his book, right, we know that it was written as a memoir, and then later we found out that he fabricated some parts. But you're saying that kind of opened you guys up then to really lean into the creativity and the artistic nature of it.
It did, and really what we decided, because obviously it was a conversation, do we take on that as well, or do we just hone in on the book? And then, so we made the decision to hone in on the book, but to go sort of almost further and just hone in on James as his journey, and to just see that James as a beacon of hope in the sense that, you know, the everything he's been through within the book and on his personal journey, and then through shame and humiliation publicly, and to be able to still stand in front of us now 26 years sober, but to be able to, you know, also talk about the fact that he faces, you know, addiction within himself every day still, and it's never far from him, but also to understand, you know, where the community of help can be.
And we see that community in the rehab center, and I want to talk to you about becoming James. Because really, your physicality, little tremors, there's all these little signs of addiction in your performance that I thought were really, really great. So take me through sort of developing him kind of getting sober and coming clean, and kind of how you researched that.
Well, yeah, I mean, spending a lot of time around him for those 2 years was detrimental in that, and you know, there was a decision very sort of early on not to kind of do, to give him more of a physicality, like I said before, because you know, you wouldn't see James sort of, you know, dancing down this sewage corridor that you saw in the trailer there, but. Yeah, in hindsight, it's kind of interesting because I've never written anything before, and co-writing on this was. I feel like when I decide I'm gonna dive into a character, I start to become that character. And of course, James is a writer, and I think I sort of took on those traits and decided that we have the ability to do this too and tell his story. So I think I was already getting into character from that point on. And it helped out a lot to sort of have that sort of language and that connection to him. So that was kind of interesting to sort of reveal later on. Yeah.
Do you know, has he seen this? Yeah. Did he give you any sort of like feedback on playing him?
Yeah, he did. What did he say recently? There was this, I think there was some tics and mannerisms that he was like, I think what was he saying about, I think, I don't, I'm sure I've forgotten all these things, but I think coming off of withdrawals and things like that, there were moments where, his sort of tics that, what did he say? I can't even remember.
I think basically it was extremely complimentary of Aaron saying that in the time that they spent together, Aaron kind of just sort of starts to just morph into that person, and James was like, how? He said, I don't even notice that I put my head like this, or I don't even notice until I saw in the movie how you were doing it. And then he said, and then I started to notice and have an awareness that I did that. So there was that. But yeah, like Aaron said, and I've seen it with him over many movies and characters, when he starts to read a script that he's going to do, I see Aaron start to disappear, and whoever he's going to become start to enter the house, which isn't always fun when it's a serial killer. But those ones I'm quite happy to get out of the house. But yeah, with this, I could see him embodying James quite quickly and becoming that.
You guys are married, and you haven't worked together since Nowhere Boy, right? Yeah. So why was this a project that you guys not only wanted to do together, but really do everything in it together?
I don't think we intended to try and tackle the whole package. I think we've always wanted to work together since Nowhere Boy, and trying to find that project or the material for us to do has been pretty hard to find and difficult. A Million Little Pieces was a book that sat on Sam's bedside table for many years, and it was one that she said that she was gonna, I want to make this movie and you'd be a perfect James, and that was maybe about 10 years ago. So, and that's kind of when we found out the rights got reverted back to James, and Sam had an old email of his through another pastime, and reached out, and they had a conversation on the phone, and she said, I hear the rights have reverted back to you, and he said, yeah, great. Why, do you want them? She went, yes, I do. I want, yes, I will have, yes, I want them. And he was like, great, you can have them. I wrote this in the spirit of art, go make art. And it was really from that minute on, it was like, so it was very serendipitous that came around. And it's also very Sam, because she always seems to manifest everything that she, wants to do. So it was a beautiful sort of serendipity, and it was also just that beautiful opportunity to sort of floated into our laps, and we was able to go from there. We did intend to get a writer on board. The writers that we respected sort of were busy, and in that time, Sam was already going, I know I see this scene like this, and then this happens, and we got to have that in, and then so it was very apparent really early on that it was just like, okay, well, you already know what it is you want. Let's just try and get this down on paper and see as far as we can get, and by the time we knew it, we were already on board, and there was 3x5 cards stuck all over the wall and casting ideas, and she was location scouting, and we're picking. You know, it was kind of one of those that just didn't stop until we kind of hashed it out, and now we're kind of here. It's kind of been a whirlwind like that.
It's such a beautiful film. So can you take me, because it sounds like this is something that you have been visualizing for years.
Yeah.
So what sort of vibe and energy were you trying to create? Because we're in this rehab scenario, it's very somber, and it does pull you in right away.
The important thing for me making this movie was it wasn't a movie about addiction that left you with no hope. So it was really important that whenever you went into the darkness with James, you kind of came out into the light. So there's darkness, but there's humor, and a lot of the humor comes through Leonard, who's played by Billy Bob Thornton, and he brings a lot of humor, especially in his costume, and but it was an important story for me to tell, because you know, I've been like many people, friends, family, you know, it's not far from us, from any of us, this story, and I felt like it was an important one to just show hope and help and a community of people, so that when you're watching it, you're not watching just a woeful tale that leads you sort of on through this sort of random path. It actually has a strong underlying basis of keep going. You can come through, and here are the places, and here are the people, and that there's by the end of the movie, there's a sense of you can come through it, and this is the support network.
And it also, the fight continues, which is what I think the last scene really sort of encompasses, is that that's a demon you have to keep fighting forever.
Because
Every day,
this was once, you know, at a studio, and it was, you know, very much going to be a studio movie. And I think that by the time it got to us, you know, we were making it, we shot it in 20 days on a very small budget. And I think what that does, and what it rightfully did, was it made us tell a very raw, true story without any glossing over. And the main character of James isn't necessarily likable, because that's not real. But what you hopefully do by the end of the movie is you have empathy, and you understand a little more why he is in the situation he is, and how he can come through it.
That's what I said at the beginning. Like, you can, you're involved in his transformation. It feels very personal by the end of it, and I think that can only be done in a film that is just so heartfelt. And like you said, it's not this big crazy thing. It's like very about the human connection.
It is, and I think, you know, Aaron does a lot of big movies, and I guess I've done one.
So
but
do you. What was I saying?
I've done one. But, you know, both of us really parked everything for a couple of years to do one for the soul. So this one is just so, you know, important to us because of that. And it's, you know, it's been a tough journey getting it made, and there's been a lot set against it. So the fact that it's actually coming out Friday is special.
Yeah. And the casting is amazing. Can you take me through the journey of getting Billy Bob and Juliette Lewis and Giovanni
Ribisi.
Ribisi, I always mess that up. I mean, the stars coming through, I was like, oh.
Well, and I mean, an interesting one, just on the tail end of what you just said, when I was doing 50 Shades of Grey with Charlie Hunnam originally, and for reasons it didn't pan out. But he and I, have, off the back of that, formed a very good friendship, and we all became quite close friends. And so when we were writing The Brother, immediately I was like, Charlie, because I felt like I'd sort of held him for something like this, and so when we approached him, he was on board immediately. And similarly, we didn't know Billy Bob Thornton, but we sent him the script, and it was a pretty immediate answer, because this normally takes time to get people of that caliber. But it sort of rolled very, very much in that sort of spirit. People came on board quickly and with a lot of passion, and you know, for pretty much no money or anything. It was really just about, this is an important story to tell.
It is such an important story to tell, and I think, like you mentioned, I think a lot of people have a connection to addiction that makes it very personal, and probably they want to be a part of it for that reason.
Yeah, it was definitely a personal connection to it, and I think that's how everyone responded to it. And just to add on Charlie, I mean, he's such a compassionate, sensitive soul that's really caring, and has so. For a character like that, you know, who who's constantly there for his brother, picks him out of the gutter, and in the darkest of times is always there. Even in that process, if you've been that sort of person for someone, even at times you get to the end of your boiling point, and it feels like you're not getting through to that person, that loved one, whether it feels like this, it feels self-indulgent or this or that, and you can't, so it was interesting to have a character like that, and Charlie really sort of inhabited that.
And Odessa Young, she's amazing in it, and we were filming on the Monday, and we only signed her on Friday, Saturday. And she started Monday, and from Saturday till Monday, she read the book, the script, and came on fully prepared. So, hats off to her for pulling off such a powerful portrayal of Lily in the movie.
Yeah. And it seems like you guys pulled everything together. It was a group effort. Is there a scene for you as a director, as an actor, that really sort of a proud scene, or one that you worked on particularly hard?
Many, but there's two, because we were so low budget, it kind of made us more creatively on our toes. So, for example, Aaron James at the beginning goes into the treatment facility, and in the book, it's very much in his head. And so how do we show what's going on in his head, the fear, the anxiety, and in an interesting way, not just him sort of walking down looking freaked out. So we came up with this idea that the walls would start, as he was walking in, he'd start sort of slightly hallucinating with the anxiety and withdrawal. And so the walls start to sort of bleed sewage. And there was no special effects. That was us mixing what looked like sewage in a big pot, and some rubber tubing and some paint and some pumping, and it comes down running through the walls. And then Aaron James does this dance in it, because he suddenly is freaked out and he's anxious, but he's like, oh, I get it. I'm in the dirt. I'm in the sewage. I'm in the grit. And I get it. And I'm comfortable in the shit, basically. And then he kind of skids through it into rehab. Now, we only had one shot at doing that because we had no time to do it twice, and we couldn't repaint the walls. So it was just, if we can pull this off, it's going to be an amazing feat. So that was one.
For you, does it help to have her there when you've got one take? That's like extra vulnerability. Does that make you even more confident going into a scene like that?
I think Sam's a filmmaker that I admire. I fully trust. I think she's got a strong vision. She's a director that creates an environment where, as an actor, you feel you can experiment and explore. But this whole movie had to be a guttural response. It had to be instinctual. And the same for the other actors too, well-seasoned actors and crew members. And you don't get that unless you have a director who's a leader and someone who demands a great set and is efficient with time, but is also watching carefully for the performances. And and the way that Sam does, she connects from her intuition, and it's always a soulful connection. She really is someone who has such strong empathy and can find that emotional storyline. I've worked with many directors who just see an image and that's fine, and they'll move on. And you go, well, it's just there's no connection there, or that wasn't, but Sam carries the optimism and the light, and we had a great time making this movie.
That is the exact scene, actually, I was thinking of when I was asking that question. So I'm happy that you explained it, because it is sort of this surreal moment, and you're like interpreting what it means. And I'm happy to know the kind of that backstory.
Yeah, and also because James isn't that. He doesn't have that physicality, but I know that Aaron can dance, and so it was also balancing, what I know Aaron's capable of with the character, and creating something new and fresh and creative.
Yeah, you had to dance a couple times. You danced in the beginning.
Singing in the Rain.
I played Singing in the Rain. He dances Singing, but then we took that out.
Oh, man, that's going to be on the Blu-ray.
Couldn't afford that song.
Too much, I was going to say.
Oh, that's true.
Couldn't afford it.
That's true. We do have two questions before we get out of here. Who's got the first one?
Hi. You both touched on this a little bit. First of all, big fan of both of you guys. How was it different, at least for Aaron, preparing for a role where the person is a real person as opposed to a fictional character? And Sam, how did you help him prepare for that?
Well, I think it is a struggle and a challenge. I feel like my natural intuition wants to try and portray that person as best I can, and therefore I will start to almost imitate and impersonate, and then luckily the way that Sam helps out is because Sam says, no, we're not, we don't need you to do an impersonation. I just need you to embody the essence and the soul of that character, and because otherwise, so it kind of became a fictionalized character by the time we had done, because we had to kind of, like Sam said, bring a physicality to it, and she had different idea, different vision, and Sam's the filmmaker, and like I said, I want to go on a filmmaker's journey, and I don't necessarily need to go on my. It's always great when a filmmaker's made a decision and it's a style, and she go, actually, I want to see, this contemporary sort of dance or a physical essence of movement expression, and I go, okay, great, we'll do that. I mean, but then I'm really not being James who I know, but the majority of the world don't really know him as a character. Like, for instance, when we did Nowhere Boy and it was John Lennon. But again, even that was exciting because that was a part of John Lennon's life that wasn't well documented at all. So there was a bit of freedom there, but what I had to draw upon was the documentary and the books, and you do a lot of research. But again, Sam had the best advice then, and it was to not do an impersonation. It was to try and embody the essence and the soul of that character, and once you've done that, then you can take the audience on that journey and kind of recreate it for them in front of them,
Jump in.
Yeah, I'm trying to think how I help, because I think when Aaron decides to become a character, he really immerses himself into it. So when he's in it, it's really just, it's amazing to be able to have an actor that goes that far into character, because really then all your job is, or all my job is to just sort of gently maneuver and keep on path, and like Aaron said, not do an impersonation so that you don't feel them in that way. So yeah.
This is really fascinating because you guys are married, and this is a very, the time making this film must have just been entirely immersive.
Yeah, really immersive.
You can't really turn that off at the end of the day, just sort of.
No, and I think because we were, literally wearing so many different hats. We were writers, producers, and that's how it also felt like how the only way to get anything done, actually, was to just do all of it, because sometimes that's how it's got to be. If I don't know, right?
It worked.
Yes,
it worked.
It worked.
and it's been 2.5 years, I think, now. So come Friday, I'm just going to be like, we did it.
Bourbon for everyone. And one more. Right?
Hey.
Great to meet you. So one of the things that we talk about a lot in film school is collaboration. And I was wondering, for you guys, how did your dynamic and your collaboration change from pre-production on the script to when you were actually on set? How did the way you work change?
Well, I think writing was new to us, and so that was a discovery for me, that Aaron has so much patience and that he can just sit and write for 8, 10, 12 hours. Just give him a pot of coffee every few hours and he can keep going. Whereas I have a 20-minute concentration, so I'm just I can sort of whirl around and thrash out ideas. And Aaron has the patience to just sit and put them into a structure, because he's great, having been reading scripts since how old, roughly?
Well, I've been acting since I was 6, but probably reading them, yeah.
Yeah, so reading scripts for that amount of time gave him a really good sense of structure, which I don't have as much, but I can throw mad ideas at him that he can then somehow formulate into within the script. Why are you frowning?
No, I'm just trying to think of, your question is interesting in a sense of, the collaborative process. I think it's...
that was just the writing aspect.
Yeah, in the writing, in the pre-production,
Yeah.
and then how did it change through?
I think on set though, it's a constant conversation.
As an actor, I feel like I've got to do all my preparation outside of the production. But when I step on set, I should be able to shed all that and let all that go. I can't still be trying to research. I had all my time before that, so I got to be that character. And then Sam's got the floor, you know. It's her world. She gets to puppeteer us through, and I don't make the decisions. I can kind of go, I can come up with an idea and go, oh, we haven't tried this. Should we explore that? But really, I want to give a variety to the director to use at the end in the edit. The writing process was like, again, very much like if you get the chance to work with a director or something, then obviously it's that person's vision. So the more you can kind of get their voice into the script, the better, because they're going to be able to. And then the crew are reading something that they're trying to help create and invent too, and the actors can explore too. And you're really talking in pictures, aren't you? You know, I think that's the key to it. But it was all very, very new, and obviously trying to adapt this book and be respectful for the book, but feel like there was, you know, a 3-act structure, and this character goes on a journey and evolves through this journey was very difficult too. But how do you feel in the production side of things of that?
I don't know how to answer that. I don't know that it did change, because I think...
Or find a good partner. I feel like we have such a good sort of, you know...
Dynamic,
and also trust. I mean, if you're constantly butting heads and don't believe in the same thing, then you're not really going to get anywhere, I guess.
Yeah, that's a tough process. But I think, being able to collaborate and being able to be organic and being able to be open to what the process and the journey it takes you on, and to be able to understand how each other thinks, but to be able to complement each other in their thought process, but also not to be too rigid that you can't open your eyes to if Aaron's doing something different, for example, and just go, okay, well, let's try it and see what's in it. I think, you know, that ebb and flow and being able to be, to stick to your vision, but at the same time be open to ideas. I think that's the best collaborative partnership is when it's like that. And to really, you know, I'm lucky because having worked with Aaron, it's just over, I think it's actually 10 years Friday by coincidence, that we did Nowhere Boy. So to work to his strengths also, which was one of the reasons that I wrote in dance, because I know how good a dancer he is, and how interesting it is, because it sort of embodies the character very quickly. The way that he dances in this movie tells a story in a short space of time. It tells you that it opens with James dancing, and he goes that bit too far and he becomes naked, and it's that moment where you think, oh God, they're spinning out of control, I've got to stop them. And so that for us was a fast track way of being able to tell the story of James needing help, and that was through a very physical way in which I knew Aaron could do it. I knew he could do that in less than a couple of minutes, and I think that's because of working together and as well as knowing each other so well.
This is one of those moments where I'm really happy to be speaking to the people who created the film, because I feel like it just adds so many more layers to the project. It's a movie I enjoyed. I thought it was really beautiful, but I love knowing kind of the work and the collaboration that happened behind the scenes. I'm excited for it to come out on Friday too.
So excited.
If you guys are also excited and you want to check it out, A Million Little Pieces hits theaters on December 6th. So go check it out and put your hands together for Sam Taylor Johnson and Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Britt.
Thanks for having me.